Wouldn't it be nice to bottle some of the bright yellows of summertime? And you can. If you love all things flower arranging with a bit of crafting and charity shop shopping too, you're in the right place, and I would love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. All you need to do is to tap the red button marked subscribe, and that means next time you open the YouTube app on your phone, your tablet or your computer, one of my videos will be waiting for you. Now let's get back to those sunshine yellows of summertime. This is Yarrow or Achillea. It makes a stunning display in your garden, is good for wildlife, and it makes an excellent dried flower. Because of the nature of the flower, it practically looks as if it grows in that dried flower state, and that makes it an excellent candidate for drying and a perfect specimen if you're new to the task of trying to dry your own flowers. And now is the perfect time to do it. In July, midsummer, when the flowers are in abundance, pick them on a bright sunny day so they're in tip-top condition. Other flowers to dry for a first-time flower dryer would be poppy seed heads and lavender. So if you're new to drying lavender, don't forget to check out my video on that, and I'll leave a link to it in the description underneath this one. One word of warning though, if you're expecting your dried flowers to retain that intensity and vibrancy of colour, you're going to be a tiny bit disappointed, although the yellow colour will remain. Rather than it being this hot golden neon yellow, it does become slightly more mustard coloured in tone. So you need to pick in the abundance of summer so you can enjoy some colour through the dark winter months when there's not much growing in your garden. I've collected my stems of yarrow and I'm going to process them on the island unit in my kitchen. So I have got my compost bucket to one side. Now it's the flower heads that we're going to be preserving and not the greenery attached to the stems. So what I'm doing is using my hand to pull off the greenery down the stem. This works quite easily, but if you're a little bit nervous about this or worried about damaging your flower heads, you could always trim off the excess foliage, either using a pair of scissors, or you might want to get an old cloth, an old tea towel, just to protect your hands and run that down the stems. When we take a close-up look at the flowers, you can see that they do look as if they are already dried, but they're not. They've got a little spring to them. So I'm going to bundle the flowers up into two bunches. I've probably got about 20 stems in each, and what I like to do is to wrap them in an elastic band. If you tie them with string, you run the risk that when you turn the flower heads upside down to dry them, as the flower stems dry and contract, become smaller in size, they might fall out of your string tie. But with an elastic band, you can always give it another twist round if you do feel that your stems are starting to work themselves loose. I like to use this technique for tying stems together using elastic band. It was something I learnt when I worked for a period in my local wholesaler. You slip the elastic band over one of the stems and then wrap it around the outside edge and then lock it off at the end by pulling the elastic band over another of the stems. So you don't actually need to wrap and turn as you would do conventionally. So having processed your flowers, tied them together in bunches, you then need to decide where you're going to keep them to dry. So number one, definitely keep them out of direct sunlight. You want to retain as much of that colour as possible. You don't want them fading. You don't want the stems getting mouldy, which means you need a circulation of airflow around. So this is my favourite place to hang up my stems to dry. It's the little lobby between our living room and the kitchen, and you can see the door into my workshop beyond. So I hang the stems over the pegs in my peg rail, and then I keep them there drying, but also they're slightly decorative too, and I like the fact that I see them every time I walk out into the garden. And when your flowers are fully dry, you'll just feel it to the touch. You can then turn your flowers the right way round and start to enjoy them in your next flower arrangement. As you can see, the Yarrow or the Achillea is a really easy flower to dry. I hope you found this video helpful. But if you've got any comments or questions, don't forget to ask me in the comments. Well, that's all from me for now, and I'll see you again another time.